Hello everyone, and welcome to this video, which is in our Great Engine Game series. I'm Grandmaster Matthew Sadler, and we're taking a look at the game between Stockfish and Komodo Dragon, TCEC Season 22 SuperFinal, Game 78. This game features an absolutely thrilling battle in one of my favourite openings, the Bishop G5 Samisch King's Indian. So let's have a look how it arose. D4, Knight F6, C4 G6, Knight C3, Bishop G7, E4 D6, typical King's Indian, and now this move F3. What does F3 do? It solidifies the E4 pawn, which makes it harder for black to generate rapid counterplay against white's centre. The one drawback is this knight on G1, which can no longer go to F3, so often you spend a couple of moves in the opening developing this knight, finding a reasonable spot for it. It can also be a very aggressive opening because you can also have ideas like G4 and H4 to H5, a kingside pawn storm. And I guess that last point is why I've enjoyed playing it so much in my career. After castles, the move Bishop G5, and I've played this probably from about the age of 13 or 14, and I've really scored very heavily with it. It was much less popular than Bishop E3 when I first started, but I think nowadays the two moves are roughly equivalent. We'll discuss the differences between those two moves. So the opening book featured this line, Knight C6, Knight E2, A6, which is known as the Pano variation, and it's the Argentina player Oscar Panno who came up with a lot of ideas involving putting the knight in front of the c-pawn, slightly unusual, attacking d4, maybe able to achieve e5, d5, knight d4, an idea like that, and a6 threatening b5, just opening up lines on the queen side. Queen d2, and now this unusual move, rook e8. Now, my feeling about this Pano variation is that it's perfectly decent with the white bishop on e3. When white's got the bishop on g5, I think it's much more risky. And there's two ideas, basically. I mean, one idea is that if black ever does go e5, then we've got a ready-made pin on the knight on f6. The other idea is that white can often play the move bishop takes f6, remove that knight, and then that removes a lot of defense of black's kingside. There's also the idea of playing knight d5 and also doubling up the black f-pawns in that way. I just feel that having the bishop on g5 really gives white a lot of possibilities. Now, this knight c6 system has been very popular with English King's Indian players, of which there have been quite a few. Funnily enough, the King's Indian was very popular with English players in the 1920s. Fred Yates was a great exponent. Well, I mean, players like William Watson, John Nunn, the most famous example, and also the English IM of that generation, John Pygott, have all played this against me, in actual fact. So I've had a lot of experience from the white side, but always done pretty well. Normally in this position, black plays one of two moves. There's rook to b8, which is supporting b5, also getting the rook onto the b file, so getting it ready to immediately put pressure as soon as the b file's been opened. And another move favoured by the English players, in actual fact, bishop d7, which tries to get the same things going with b5, but tries to make a useful developing move at the same time. But there is one extra possibility, which is rook e8. And well, bishop d7 had featured in the season 21 SuperFinal and led to two very exciting games. Leela went all in against Stockfish, and well, Stockfish found this amazingly precise way to get perpetual check. And then afterwards, well, Stockfish and Leela had a long game featuring a tragic blunder by Leela just towards the end after it had survived so well. Well, you know, seeing that rook b8 and bishop d7 were the main moves, it felt like playing rook e8, which is a sort of a nothing move, really. You know, it doesn't do anything for black's queenside counterplay, really. Just puts the rook onto a solid square, but it's not clear whether it's really going to be useful there. I thought that this would be a really quite significant advantage for white, and indeed in the engine matches that I ran just to test out these Sufi openings, there were a couple of crushing wins for white. This didn't quite turn out like that. It was thrilling, but well, you're going to see how well Komodo defended as black. So Stockfish played h4, and yeah, I mean, this is really absolutely the move you have to play. In the reverse game, Komodo played bishop h6, I think, which was well, really very, very tame indeed. h4 really gets things going, and we're threatening straight away to play h5. Now black's got a number of ways of playing this position. Knight a5 is a move that's starting to be played quite a lot in all sorts of positions. Just attacking the pawn. The idea is that if you go knight g3, which is the most natural way of defending the pawn, just defending it with the bishop, then black plays h5, and you no longer have this this move g4 to blast open the kingside. If you play b3, which is probably the best move, then black has the idea of playing b5, just with the idea that if you grab the pawn, then we've got this move knight takes b3, and forking the queen and rook, and of course a takes b3 allows rook a1. Well, after b3, b5, you don't take it, of course, you go h5, and I've got quite a bit of analysis on this line. I guess it's, you know, as always, it's it should be fine for black, but it's you have to be incredibly precise. This was a game Stockfish against Koivisto 8.6 on my 94 thread machine. c5 from Koivisto, bishop h6, bishop h8. So making use then of this rook e8 move, just to avoid the exchange of bishops, avoid bringing the queen into h6, and just sidestepping. Takes, d takes c5, b takes c4, and now the move b4, knight c6, rook d1, really, really sharp. D takes c5, and then this lovely little idea, bringing the queen over to h4. And well, I think you can imagine that even if it's all right for black, then you know, I'd much rather be white here. I mean, this is incredibly dangerous, and you know, when black goes knight h5, we've got all sorts of ideas like g4 in the future. So you know, very difficult position for black from a practical sense. You've even got ideas just playing a gambit, b5, you know, just give away the pawn, and for example, if you go c takes b5, takes, knight b5, it's a little bit Benko style, really. This was not so bad. I mean, I had a game Stockfish against Koivisto again, and Stockfish eventually won, but Koivisto managed to generate quite a bit of counterplay for black there. So that's quite interesting. Of course, you can also play just simply h5 as well, ignore it, and in you go. And I mean, that is also very dangerous indeed. For example, takes, bishop h6, e5, knight d5, takes, knight d4, g4. This was a game Koivisto Stockfish, which was pretty promising for white, although, you know, Stockfish of course managed to hold in the end. So yeah, plenty of ideas there, but Komodo played h5, which is you know, very, very common. You also see this in the Dragon Sicilian as well. Castle queenside, that's what we do. And now, again, many different ideas. b5 was played an awful lot in my engine games, particularly by Dragon as black, and also by Koivisto. But this was turning out to be very, very powerful. I mean, g4, h takes g4. You know, the nice thing about it is that we've, with a bishop on g5, you know, even bishop h5 and bishop takes f6 rather, and g takes h5 is a threat, you know, just opening up the king side like that. So h takes g4, h5, in we go, takes, and knight d5. And well, you notice how useful this pin is again. You know, black can't go e6 even to drive away the knight. Rook b8, bishop h6. We're just threatening actually rook takes h5, takes, and then queen g5, pinning the bishop with mate. So e5 and then knight g3 is a huge move. Knight takes g3, we've got bishop h6, and if king takes, I've just got queen check and mate. You know, I mean, I've won a number of games in this line, you know, in 20 moves or under. So you know, I think you can see why. I mean, it's really easy. I mean, knight f4. takes, bishop g7, king g7, queen f4, rook h8, bishop e2, and well, this is very, very dangerous for black. I mean, Koivisto did not last long against Stockfish in these positions. The first threat even is just to take on h8 and go rook h1, and then go queen h6 check afterwards. So you know, plenty of danger there. So Komodo Dragon played a very good move here. Actually, it played knight a5, again eyeing this pawn, and you know, trying to tempt you to go knight g3 so that there's no g4 anymore. But Stockfish was having none of it. G4, in we go. It's giving 2 pawns away, including one with tempo. Knight c4, queen e1, and then again h takes g4. So Stockfish's evaluation was pretty high here, and well, I mean, I was really thinking that this was going to be one of those glorious wins. It might give me a game pair win, keep me in the hunt for the Sufi Bookmaker's Prize. The competition, little competition, friendly competition, of course, got with my colleague Jeroen, who can get the most decisive game pairs. Well, Jeroen has won this quite handsomely, and yeah, this certainly didn't help me, but it was a great game though. So h takes g4, and now knight f4. Very nice move, developing the knight, opening up the attack on the knight on c4, and also threatening h5, and this knight's also attacking the g6 pawn. And on top of that, this queen on e1 is supporting the move e4 to e5. So, I mean, to be honest, you know, intuitively, I'm just thinking, well, you know, white is just winning here. But it's not as easy as all that. First of all, b5, supporting the knight on c4. And now e5 from white. The amazing thing here is that if you go play a move like h5, which is kind of the, I'm sure basically the first move I'd play in blitz, then black goes knight h7, hitting this bishop on g5. And the idea is, I think if you just go there, I'm just going g5, and that both closes the king side and forks 2 pieces as well. So, so e5 played. And now, actually, the really stunning move from black. And I think, you know, this is the concept that black simply has to find. But of course, you know, these top engines, they just find it immediately. The funny thing about e5 is that you're not actually threatening e takes f6 because of e takes f6. And yeah, lo and behold, this rook on e8, it's attacking the queen on e1. So it just turns out to be just in the right place at the right time. So okay, that's not really a threat, but still, you know, it's giving white the chance to remove that knight at a moment's notice. And of course, you know, stuff like h5, queen h4 is going to come in at some stage. So what black does here, also bearing in mind that there's the threat of e5 to e6 as well, black plays the astonishing move queen d7. Yeah, what on earth is the idea of this? Well, this queen is stopping e5 to e6. When the bishop comes to b7, it means the rooks are connected, which is going to be quite useful. And what's crucial is that this queen is able to come out to f5. And that will mean that the queen will be able to harass this bishop on g5 as soon as white plays the move h4 to h5. So, for example, h5 was one move I was interested in. D takes c5, h6, bishop f8. We take on c4. We go h7 check, king h8, d takes c5. You know, like we've advanced this rook's pawn. We've got d takes c5, attacking the queen and attacking the knight. And now black has this idea, queen f5. And it steps out of the attack and also threatens the bishop on g5. So, for example, e takes f6. I've just got queen takes g5 here. So that is a really, really important resource. And yeah, I don't know. Would I spot that? I'm not sure I would, to be honest. I mean, it's a difficult idea to spot anyway. And I'm not sure that I'd you know, particularly feel that it was that was the key to good defense. But that's how it turns out to be. You know, that's really, really amazing defensive insight there from Komodo. So f takes g4 played, bishop b7 hitting the rook, rook h3. I mean, you can't just sacrifice this rook on h1 because, well, you're going to attack on the h file. You really need something behind it. And now c5, you know, very typical. Central break, you know, sort of countering this wing play from white, but obviously, you know, in a horrifically complicated format. The nice thing about it, you know, this queen on d7 again, is that black's, you know, looking at playing moves like queen takes g4. So, you know, if you play a move like h5, for example, I just takes, b takes c4, rook d4, queen g4, and I'm attacking this one. This one's attacked, which pins this knight down. You know, it's total carnage basically for white. Just too many pieces, and well, you know, the king. If you're losing all your light squares, then you know the black king's not going to be in danger either. So e6 was played by Stockfish, and of course you can see the idea. The queen is being blocked there, as well as the g6 pawn is being weakened. F takes e6, and now knight takes e6. Again, you know, I wanted to desperately play a move like h5, but yeah, my engines just say e5. Rook takes c4, which was the main idea, because takes bishop c4 check looks really, really dangerous. But now black plays the gorgeous move knight h7, hitting this bishop, and we just get the amazing continuation. Bishop h6, putting the bishop in the way here, trying to get a future h takes g6, and now this amazing move g5. All pieces hanging, rook, knight, bishop, bishop g7, e takes f4 played. This bishop still hanging, this rook still hanging, and after h6, b takes c4, takes e6. Well, this is still very, very murky, but my engines thought that that black was better here. And, well, Stockfish-Komodo, it ended in a win for black, which probably shows something. Just crazy ideas completely. But after fe6, white plays knight takes e6. C takes d4, rook takes d4. And this was quite well, not really a crucial moment, but certainly a junction point. I think Komodo spent a very long time looking at rook c8, which was actually going to be quite decent as well. But in the end, it plumped for Stockfish's move, which is knight h7. Attacks this bishop on g5 and hits the rook on d4. And this knight is also coming round to f8, just to eject this knight from e6. So lots of things hanging. This was really the move that that appealed to me the most. I mean, takes, and then a move like b3, just driving this knight away from c4. And I was kind of thinking that this was going to be a a good white advantage, but my engines were not very impressed. Either after knight a5, preparing knight c6, that was Stockfish's idea, or Komodo's knight b6, bishop b3, queen c7, queen d2, e5. And after h5, we go g5, this move again, just stopping white from opening the h-file and leaving things hanging. Rook d6, knight d5, blocking the rook, attacking the knight on c3. Rook g6 check, king h8, bishop g2, rook d8. And, well, I mean, you can see that there's quite a bit of danger all around the place here as well as for black's king. But black's king kind of tucked away behind these pawns. And, well, this ended in a draw eventually, Stockfish against Komodo. So Stockfish didn't do that. Stockfish took on c4, b takes c4, and simply rook d1. And, well, I mean, the first flurry has ended here. And actually, considering how fearsome it looked, black's obviously done pretty decently. Black's won the pawn, got the two bishops. The king is a little bit open, but, well, we still got to sort of finish it off, really. And, well, moves like h5, knight g5, and if knight g5, queen takes g4, not at all clear that this is breaking through quickly for white. So, yeah, I mean, plenty of ideas here for black. So I think knight g7 now would be a rather annoying move. So black plays bishop f6, just looking to exchange off the dark squared bishop. If bishop f6, we can go ef6, and again, this rook on the 8 turns out to be perfectly placed. Having the bishop on f6 also, dissuades white from playing the move h4 to h5. Rook e3 played to defend the knight on e6, and also potentially, get some sort of threat taking on f6. And now this very fine move, rook b8. It looks, you know, so slow, but the idea essentially is that black might play an idea like bishop c8 and get the queen on b7, and of course we've got some sort of convergence here against the b2 pawn. I mean, these are moves that, you know, engines play very, very well, and that humans, you know, sometimes find difficult to choose because, you know, hard to really judge well, you know, how much time you've actually got in the position. But here you turn out to have a, you know, really quite a large amount. Bishop f6 takes h5 was Stockfish's original move, but there were loads of different ways of dealing with this. Takes and knight g5 was one idea. I think that was the one favoured by Stockfish in its main variation. And yeah, knight c5, queen c6, takes, queen e2, knight f7. Looks very loose for black, but Koivisto was drawing this without any trouble against Stockfish. Knight f8 was Komodo's line, I think, in its main line. And after knight takes f8, king f8, queen f2, king g7, we can throw open the king side like this, but here queen e6 and well, you know, black picks up the g6 pawn. White's probably going to pick up 2 pawns for the, you know, it's going to pick up 2 pawns basically, and maybe have rook knight and 2 against rook bishop and 1, but it's not going to be too dangerous at all. So Stockfish decided to try and keep pieces on the board with bishop h6. Bishop c8 played a really nice move, you know, just opening up the line. The queen's coming to b7 to hit b2, and then bishop takes c6 can remove the knight. You know, really nice idea there. g5, queen b7, it's all so close, you know, rook d2, takes, and yeah, first, you know, first thought at first blink was, oh, wait a minute, you know, is white doing well here all of a sudden? You know, this knight on e6 is still there. We've got rid of the dark squared bishop. We've got ideas like h5. This knight on h7 is cramped. The king restricted by the bishop and the knight. You know, maybe this is going well, but this was the great move that Komodo had seen from a long way away. And it just makes everything work. I mean, this knight is getting active. It's heading for the very dangerous e4 square. And after g takes f6, e takes f6, we've got this this pin on here, which is well, extremely unpleasant. You know, trying to sort of deal with it. Obviously, you can't play rook e2 because I go rook e6 and takes. I've got queen takes b2. And if you go rook e3, then probably this move c3 is very unpleasant. Obviously, rook c3 allows rook e6, and otherwise I've got stuff like c takes b2, c takes d2 in the air, going to be quite unpleasant. So queen g1 was played by Stockfish, counter-attacking, getting out of the pin, counter-attacking g6, rook e6, queen g6, king h8, and I mean, you'd really think that this would just be winning for white somehow, you know. Maybe even, you know, reroute the bishop to d4, hit this one, get the rooks over, you know, get some sort of check somewhere. But it's not. It's just actually drawn in actual fact. Black has enough play to keep white honest, in particular along the e file, you know, and well, this queen cutting across the white king like that causes a lot of problems. So bishop d4 played, queen h6, pinning the rook on d2. Not at all obvious. I mean, if you were, as a human player, you were trying to assess this from afar, I mean, it really does hang very closely on tactics. You know, a few careless moves and you'd just be right back into huge trouble. But yeah, you know, this is just keeping white at bay, and already the engines were at 0-0-0 here. Rook e8 coming in, so going to be hard to move this bishop away because we'll have an unpleasant rook check. Rook d1, rook e4, rook g1, and the engines agree to draw here. A little bit early from a human point of view, but well, you know, I'm sure the engines would have managed to cope with this just fine. Not sure. Yeah, moves like bishop g4, for example, blocking the g file are quite interesting here. So there we are. I mean, actually, a really important game theoretically, because it just looks, you know, from this game as if rook e8 is actually a lot cleaner than any of the other moves. And well, obviously, you know, it is very complicated. But if you've got the benefit of Komodo finding this move Queen D7 for you, then I think the rest is not too difficult to remember. So also quite striking, I always find how you know, you have these incredibly sharp lines, you know, like a G4, where you think you know, there must be, you know, myriad possibilities at every stage. It's so sharp, but somehow, you know, the engines, both engines, you know, sort of have like a very narrow channel where every single move is basically, as far as they're concerned, the only move worth considering in the position. And yeah, none of them are obvious. That's the real problem. But for engines, you know, this is really trivial. But for humans, again, that's very, very difficult. So there we are. I hope you enjoyed that game. It was a very thrilling draw. If you like this video, why not give a like, subscribe to the channel, take a look at my new book, The Silicon Road to Chess Improvement, full of fantastic analysis of amazing games like this, and also lots and lots of tips for how to work with engines and how best to work with them to improve your game. Lots of my trading games against engines as well in there. And yeah, otherwise, you know, thanks very much for watching, and I hope to see you at the next video. Thanks for watching.